Donald the donkey had had enough. Enough of carrying, straining, walking, and being whipped badly if he did any of that slowly. He wanted a new life, but he just didn't know what. As he stood, pondering this in the bright morning sunshine, a small bird flew past, singing the most beautiful song. "That's it! I'm going to become a musician," brayed Donald in a moment of inspiration. "That's the life for me, spreading joy wherever I go." So Donald set off for the nearby town of Bremen right away to buy himself a drum kit. Only a few minutes later, he came across an old sheepdog by the side of the road. "What's up, dog?" "Oh," said the dog, out of breath. "I'm too old for this lark. Sheep ain't what they used to be. I dunno, maybe it's me." "Ever thought of a career in music?" said Donald with a...
The Gallant Tin Soldier. "Tin soldiers!" shouted the boy. There they were, 25 soldiers with smart uniforms and rifles neatly painted in bright red, black, and white, neatly packaged for his birthday. In seconds, the paper was ripped from the box, and they were lined up on the table. "Wait," said the boy, "this one's only got one leg." He was right. When the toy maker was making the last soldier, he had run out of tin. However, as you will soon hear, that did not stop this tin soldier from becoming the bravest one of all. The boy owned a fine cardboard castle that sat pride of place on his bedroom floor. It had painted walls, a gate and windows, and trees made from pipe cleaners and cotton wool. There in front of the castle was a pretty paper ballerina with a delicate painted smile. She wore a white dress and a narrow blue ribbon over her shoulder, and on her head sat a tiny rose made of red tinsel. She stood balanced on her toes of one leg, with her other leg lifted high in the air, her arms stretched out in a ballet pose. The tin soldier had never seen anything quite so beautiful, and watched the ballerina in pure wonder. "She lives in a castle and I live in a box. There is no way she would ever want to talk to me," he thought. At bedtime, when the boy finished playing and was fast asleep, the toys all came to life, as toys often do when children aren't watching. The boy had become quite taken with the one-legged tin soldier, imagining that this brave chap had been hurt in battle. The tin soldier had been placed on the windowsill, far from his comrades over on the table. He felt very lucky to look out on the thick blanket of stars in the night sky. The other toys continued to play, the Nutcracker performing somersaults, the pencil doing all sorts of tricks, and the Jack-in-the-Box popping up and down and waking the canary, who began to chatter noisily. All the while, the paper ballerina remained perfectly balanced on tiptoe, spinning slowly round and round. The tin soldier believed that she was even more beautiful than the stars and turned to watch her instead. The very next moment, the tin soldier found himself falling. Now, whether it was a stiff breeze from the open window or a jealous toy pushing him, we shall never know. But he thudded to the ground outside and was struck there face down in the dirt between two paving stones. What a terrible thing to happen on your first day out of the box. But that's what happened. And there he stayed till morning. "Oh dear," thought the tin soldier, "what will become of me?" I will tell you. It started to rain. The skies opened up and the rain clouds emptied until the path was like a flowing river. The tin soldier was lifted by the strong current, swept away down the path and into the street outside. He lay there until morning, when the rain had turned to a light drizzle, and all he could think about was how he might get back to the boys' room to see the ballerina once again. Around 8 o'clock, 2 boys on the way to school saw the tin soldier laying next to the gutter that was still flowing with rainwater. "Look," cried one of them, "let's make him a boat." They folded an old newspaper into triangular boat shape, and before long the tin soldier was sailing along the gutter, while the 2 boys ran alongside, cheering and clapping their hands. "What an adventure I'm having," thought the tin soldier. "Seeing the beautiful dancer falling from a great height, being washed by a torrent of rain, and now this fine boat ride." The paper boat rocked from side to side, and the tin soldier was nearly thrown overboard a number of times. But he looked straight ahead, balancing carefully on his one leg and his rifle. Then, in a flash, his fortune changed, for the rainwater in the gutter swept him down the storm drain and deep, deep underground. He was thrown into darkness. His mind drifted to the kind face of the paper ballerina once again. He only wished he had plucked up the courage to speak to her while she had the chance. "Who knows if I'll ever see her again," he thought to himself. "Where's your pass?" came a voice from the darkness. The tin soldier could not see who was talking at first, but when his eyes became used to the dim light, he could make out a large water rat holding out his paw. "You want to be here? You need a pass." The rat looked very angry, and the tin soldier grasped his rifle tightly. But even if the soldier had wanted to stop, he simply couldn't. The boat sped along the fast-flowing underground river. This made the rat even angrier, and he swam behind, his thick tail propelling him through the water. "Stop that soldier!" he shouted angrily. Thankfully, the water carried the boat along faster and further from the angry rat, until his shouts were whispers in the distance. The tin soldier looked ahead and could see daylight. He was sailing to the end of the drain, but where was it taking him? He heard a roaring noise and began to worry. A waterfall? He thought. Oh no, a waterfall. But all our brave tin soldier could do was to try to stay upright as the newspaper boat burst into the daylight, over a fast-flowing waterfall and into the large river surrounded by huge oak trees. He was still upright and afloat, and for a moment he couldn't believe his good luck. But then he started to worry. The boat was taking in water fast and began to sink lower and lower in the water. The water soon reached the soldier's head, and his final moments he thought once again of the paper ballerina, of her smile, her blue sash, and the red tinsel rose that adorned that dainty head. Then, would you believe it, the soldier's luck turned again, as a huge fish that had been lurking in the nearby reeds saw his bright red tunic and flashed out of hiding to swallow him up in one mighty gulp. "Are you kidding me?" thought the soldier. I'm not sure if you know this, but being inside a fish is not very pleasant. It was smelly, dark, and cold, and the tin soldier held on to his rifle tighter than ever before, trying to think of a way out of this fishy situation. Then there was a sudden jolt. Would you believe it? The fish had been caught on a fisherman's line and was being dragged from the water. After a brave struggle, the fish, with the tin soldier inside, landed plop on the banks of the river. When the fish's belly was sliced open, the voice of a cook cried out in shock. My, what have we here? A tin soldier inside a fish. The cook washed the soldier in the sink and dried him with a tea towel. She then walked up a large set of stairs, through a door, and then, to his surprise, the tin soldier found himself in the very room where he had started his adventure. There was the same little boy with all the same toys scattered around. There was the castle, and there, to the soldier's relief, was the pretty ballerina, still balanced perfectly on one leg, a blue sash around her shoulder, and a red tinsel rose on her head. She was even more beautiful than he remembered. The soldier looked at the paper ballerina, and his heart pounded in his chest as she turned, looked back at him, and smiled. Then, to his surprise, the little boy, as part of his war game, grabbed the tin soldier and declared, "Look out! There's been an explosion! Who will save this injured man from the burning building?" Then he threw the tin soldier on the fire. The tin soldier stood there on one leg on a scorched log, surrounded by flames. He held his rifle tightly and stared back at the ballerina. She stared back, a tiny fear appearing in her eye as she watched the flames melt the red paint of his uniform and drip onto the grate below. It was time for school, and the boy dropped his toys and ran to the door, flinging it open and rushing down the stairs. A gust of wind from the door caught the paper ballerina, blew her across the room and into the fire right next to the tin soldier. In a blaze of bright light, she was gone. The next morning, the cold ashes from the fire were swept up and thrown away. All that was left of those two toys was a lump of tin in the shape of a heart and a red tinsel rose. Gone forever, but at least, at last, they were together. The end.